we did it.
We did it!
Oh, technology.
You look so glowy. Your skin is just loving
Thank
life.
you.
Anyways, it looks so good. Hi, Sydney.
Hi, Amy. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm living my best life.
That's awesome. I'm glad that you're living your best life. Okay, so why we're here today. So we decided, I'm so grateful to Sydney. We've been working together for 8 weeks, and she decided that she would like to help me out by going live and talking about her experience working with me one-to-one and how her life has changed and all those amazing things. So hello, welcome. If you're coming, I'm just going to try and wave to people and do my best at being a good host. Yeah, so I have some questions for Sydney, and we're going to let Sydney just talk about kind of her health history and experience and all of those things. Oh, there's my husband. Hi, Gary. Okay, so Sydney, tell me all about your health history. What was going on when you decided to start working with me, or before you started to decide to work with me?
So I have endometriosis. I was diagnosed when I was 19. I'm 34 years old, but I suspect that I had it since the onset of menstruation when I was 14 years old. But like back then, you just didn't talk about periods, and every woman had it, so you just didn't talk about it. But looking back, my symptoms were abnormal. And there are so many women who have endometriosis, and more women getting diagnosed with endometriosis. So I'm glad to see that like more information is coming out about the disease, but that still doesn't help those who suffer daily from it. So my pain was getting so bad that I was at the point of talking to doctors about a hysterectomy. And this wasn't what I wanted. We want to have another child. And so I was just in so much pain that I thought the only way out is a hysterectomy. This is the only way out. But I didn't want to make that decision in pain. So I thought there has got to be a way that I can manage my pain. Like I've got to figure this out. This is not a way to live. There has to be some sort of solution. So I started doing research about endometriosis and inflammation. And on top of it, I'm also dealing with stress and anxiety, dealing with all sorts of hormonal issues that are making my cycle crazy and making me feel just overall really unwell. And so I was on Instagram one day and I found one of your videos, and it was like a light bulb moment for me. It was everything I needed to hear. It was like the science behind inflammation and cortisol and your insulin levels and how it all worked together. And I won't go into the science of it because Amy's like brilliant. You are brilliant when it comes to the science of this kind of stuff. But it just made so much sense. So I'm like, I have to reach out to this person. And so that's when I like set up a call with you and was looking at like all of your different programs. And I knew like this could really be a solution to my pain. So that's why I reached out.
That's amazing. It's funny because I don't think I've ever told you this, but the first time we talked, I said to my husband, I'm like, I think she thinks I'm crazy. When I told her that we could get endometriosis under control in her body, we could probably even get it healing and going into remission. I feel like you're like, okay, crazy lady.
Yeah, well, I've tried it all, right? Like I've tried it all. I've had 10 surgeries to remove endometriosis, which is an incredible number. I've tried all sorts of medications, all sorts of hormone therapies, and I feel like nothing has worked. So I'm like, okay, we'll see. This will be a fun experiment. I had no idea just like how life-changing this process has been, though. Like it really has made all the difference. And we're no longer talking about a hysterectomy. Like now we're talking about fall and hopefully getting pregnant and having a baby. Like that's the conversation shift. And it's only been a few months since we went from talking about a hysterectomy to talking about growing our family.
That's incredible. And I think, like, just a testament, right? Like, if you follow me, if you're someone who follows me, you'll see me talk about how the body can heal and how food really is the best medicine for our body. And when we figure out how to feed our body exactly what it needs, not what we need, but what the body needs, things can transform just at an incredible rate. So since we started working together, what were the things you noticed in the first couple weeks?
Um, so first of all, I first noticed it in my skin. So I've always had like somewhat clear skin. I really don't have like a lot of blemishes or acne, but I always had a lot of redness. And I tried all the face creams, all of like the dermatology stuff, and just finally realized that I'm just someone who has like a red tone, like I have rosacea. Um, and within, I think it was 6 days, 6 days of being on this journey with you, and my redness was almost completely gone. I've tried for years to get it gone, and now having been with you for several weeks, I think 9 or 10 weeks at this point. I think this is week
Nine,
week
I think.
nine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, my skin is so smooth. Like there's, I don't know, it's very smooth. And that's not something I
You
like
can see it.
tried. Yes. No, it is. It's like healthy and glowing, and that's not something I tried to do. That was just like a happy side effect.
Mhm.
Um, my hair has gotten stronger. I'm not like losing hair as much, which is really common for a lot of women. My nails are stronger. My mood is totally transformed. I felt like brain fog all the time, and I really just thought it was like mom brain. I have young kids, so I thought this is just how it is, and I'll have to wait until they graduate high school to like be better. But no, it was like this cloud over me. And I was also like really impatient and really snappy and moody, and that normalized really quickly. I have tons more energy. I fall asleep quickly, even if I was like so tired. It would still take like 40 minutes to actually fall asleep. And now it's like as soon as I hit the pillow, my body knows it's bedtime and I fall asleep. And I wake up feeling refreshed. I don't need a nap during the day. Um, my sex drive has improved. My desire has improved. And as like an added bonus, this wasn't the focus, but I've lost 35 pounds, which is like I came into this process like not even like it wasn't about the weight loss. I just wanted help feeling better and I didn't want to be in pain,
Mhm.
but just totally as a side effect. The weight just I know when people say like the weight just came off, and I hate that so much because I'm like, well, why doesn't it ever happen for me? But it did. It happened for me, and I've been dieting for like 15 years, and it's never happened, and it just comes
It's
off.
amazing because I say this even in some of my videos. When we focus on what is going on in the body that caused your body to gain weight, when we focus on those hormones, the inflammation, get rid of the foods that your body doesn't like, your body can just relax and start releasing things that no longer serve it. And one of the first things that we do inside the She Ketos 1-to-1 is we do a deep dive into symptoms. And when Sydney presented with a lot of emotional stuff going on, right, like you were saying that you had anxiety, you had depression. I think you said like focused on death, right? Like that, does like that really deep
I, I think it's a
hyperfixation.
catastrophic
Yeah, that's
thinking.
what I
Yes,
was thinking of.
like
That
every
catastrophic.
situation, I was going to like the worst case scenario
Yeah.
in every situation.
And
Yeah.
so one of the first things that we do is we address the underlying deficiencies that lead us to have some of the mental health struggles that we have. Uh, in the medical community, generally speaking, we know that if you're struggling with depression and anxiety, then you might need more of something called serotonin. So typically they put you on an SSRI, and what that does is it stops you from breaking down serotonin into other things again because your body reuses and recycles amazingly well. And so what we do in the holistic community is we say, where are your symptoms? And we address it from a deficiency and we supplement what's been missing that's keeping you stuck in those anxious and depressed and like the fog,
Mm-hmm.
right? That cloud that's kind of overhead all the time. We addressed that deficiency with supplements, and like immediately, I remember I said, "How are you feeling?" You're like, "I'm feeling so good, but I've tried things before, so I'm not expecting this to last."
Yeah.
Do you
There
remember
was
that?
one day that I felt like straight up euphoric. Like I've never been on drugs, but I was like, this feels incredible, amazing. Um, and that like has continued. Like there are days where like life is crappy and things happen, like whatever. But like now my default is euphoric, is like life is good. And for so long, I like this, it was like the moments of joy and days of like happiness and contentment were like few and far between. Like the default was brain fog, grumpy, anxious, depressed, and now it's the other way around.
Yeah. So you worked really, really hard to bring the two kids that you do have like into your family, right? Like, it took a lot of work for you. How did it feel when you were kind of stuck in that depressive kind of state, that anxious state as a mom? Like, did you struggle with that?
For sure. And I think anyone who's gone through infertility can relate to that. Certainly you can as well, Amy, but you worked so hard to have a baby, grow your family. So I have two children. My first is through IVF and my second is adopted. And whenever as a mom you're having a hard time, like I hate life right now. And this doesn't make sense because I wanted this so bad. I spent a lot of money on IVF. I spent a lot of money on adoption. We waited for years and years for this to happen. And then now that it's here, I'm like, I'm not enjoying this ride. Like I want off this roller coaster. And I thought that that's just how it was going to be. But then um, after like understanding my body better and like what it needs to feel well, I realized that that's not normal thinking, that like my capacity to like handle everything or my patience level that grew once I started like feeding my body how it needed to feed and then taking vitamins that really, really helped. So now it's like I'm a lot happier as a parent and I'm not as anxious, which every parent is anxious. But I'm like, why can't I see like my girlfriends who are, they look like they're thriving as moms and they love it. And I'm like, what is wrong with me? 'Cause I'm having a really hard time enjoying this because I have like this cloud. But it wasn't me. That's like the anxiety and the depression talking. And it was also like the things I was putting in my body, like how I was feeding my body, even like health foods I thought were healthy were actually causing inflammation and doing damage to my body. Once I removed those things, that's when like a lot of things lifted and I realized like this is a good life. I do enjoy this role. This is, I can be happy every day.
You talked about, so losing 35 pounds in like 9 or 10 weeks. Like, that's incredible. One of the things that definitely that you moved out of your body was a whole lot of inflammation,
Hmm.
right? Like, we knew because of endometriosis that you had a very inflamed body. And so when we removed that, like, water from like every cell was able to leave. But what also left clearly was some body fat. And would you say that how you're eating right now feels restrictive in the sense that how much are you eating? Like, do you feel well fed or do you feel like Amy's starving you?
So when I first started, I tracked like everything. And like, sorry, Amy, I have not been tracking because I've just been, first of all, I'm on an extended vacation. I'm with family for several weeks in the summer and having a great time. And so I wanted to just really like enjoy the moment. And so I have not been tracking my food. So I can't tell you how many calories I've been eating, but what I have been focusing on is eating for what is it, satiated, like until I'm hungry or until I'm not hungry anymore, and just listening to body cues. So I have not been starving at all. I think when I tell people the way I'm eating now, there's like a lot of skepticism. And when Amy first guided me on this path, I was skeptical too. I was like, no, we're not doing that. Thank you though, but I will decline. Um, but now that I'm eating things that my body really likes these things. And like, yes, I do wish that like I could fall into old habits and eat whatever sounded good in the moment. But what's even better is that I feel well, like I am not in pain. And that is like, I was in so much pain that it's like, it's so worth it
Mhm.
that I can be satisfied. I can get over like the hurdle of cravings and what I think I want, and still enjoy yummy, yummy foods.
How has it been? So you just said like I've been on an extended vacation with family. How has it been with them advocating for yourself and then how you eat now and how you feed your body
Yeah.
so it feels.
One thing that you've taught me, Amy, is like to stop minimizing my plight, my journey. Endometriosis is such an invisible disease. I don't have a broken leg, so you can't visibly see. Like when you have a broken bone in your body, there's like tons of accommodations that are made. But when you have a disease that affects your uterus, it's not like that's always visible. Um, I mean, even wearing jeans, right? A lot of people wouldn't understand like jeans. It hurts to wear jeans. I have a friend that I met up with this trip who's very aware of my health issues, and I was wearing jeans, and she said, I'm so glad to see you wearing jeans again. And only somebody who like is aware of endometriosis knows what that means, because it's the like the actual button and the zipper that presses against your uterus and hurts the actual disease. Like that's why even things like jeans hurt. So when you have an invisible disease, sometimes it's hard to advocate for yourself because you still have to show up. You still have to go to work. You still have to raise your family. You still have to clean your house. You still have to do all these things. If I had a broken leg, people would have no problem letting me lay on the couch while they take care of the house and, but with endometriosis, it's not. And I should say all female related diseases. There's PCOS, there's premenstrual disorder, PMS, all sorts of stuff.
Mhm.
So anything female disease with the uterus sometimes is invisible and people don't see. So I've had to. There's been like lots of family parties and events and dinners that I've had to advocate for myself and say, I'm not eating that right now, thank you, and not minimizing what I'm going through, and even having like hard conversations with family because I've dieted before, and it's a little embarrassing where your family's like, well, what are you doing this time? What diet are you on now? And it's like the boy who cried wolf, where I'm like, no, no, really, this time it really is gonna stick, I swear. Um, but this time it's been um, more of like, this is how I need to eat in order to feel well. If you want to be around me and you want me to be happy and healthy, this is just, I need to avoid these foods. And luckily, the way that I'm eating now is not that big of a deal. So, can I share
Sure.
how I'm?
Yeah, totally.
So, through trial and error, what Amy and I have found is that carnivore has been really helpful in getting my inflammation down. So basically, meat and fish is what I eat, and that's kind of my default. And we've figured out foods. We've tested different kinds of food categories and food items to see which ones I react negatively to, which ones are neutral. And so I can incorporate those kinds of foods. But I found that inflammation, and it's kind of weird because you wouldn't think eating a ton of meat would like be good for your body, but it's really well received by the gut. And when you can take out all other factors and just eat that, it allows your inflammation to go away. So, for example, we tested tomatoes one week, and I thought tomatoes are so healthy for you. They have so many vitamins, they're just really good for you. And I had a severe reaction to tomatoes. Not only did I have like a physical reaction, I immediately got an endometriosis flare up. The tops of my feet developed a rash, which was like so random, but I was also back to feeling ragey, feeling out of control of my emotions, feeling that catastrophic thinking, really horrible impatience. And like 2 weeks later, I tested it again just to see like, was it in my brain? Was I really having, maybe it was just a bad day, but no, no, no. Tomatoes are, so like think of all of the health foods that, or foods that we've been taught are healthy, and tomato being one of them, and thinking about all the times I've dieted or tried to eat a certain way and tomatoes were in that diet. No matter what I would have eaten, no matter how many calories I was restricting, I was still going to be unwell
Mhm.
because of the inflammation. Because whenever I eat tomatoes, my inflammation goes up. So it just was like I was never going to win until I found out the foods that I react negatively
And
to.
it's something I do with all of my clients when we work one-to-one is we do an elimination diet, and we kind of go as strict as your symptoms tell me we need to go. So based off of how you present, and when we do your intake exam, or I don't know, it was not an intake, but like questionnaire basically, right?
Yeah.
We go through so many different symptoms, and based off of the information that my clients give me, I give them recommendations on the elimination protocol that we do, because I will hang my hat over and over again on the only way to find out what your body likes and doesn't like is the first thing we need to do is get your body to a baseline where it's not holding on to inflammation, where you're not dealing with, anxiety, depression, sore joints, your sleep is regulating. We need to get you to that baseline. And for Sydney, how she presented, the only option I felt like we had that was going to get her feeling good as fast as possible was carnivore. And so I said this to her, and I just like recently really started experimenting with carnivore myself, being called into that kind of what my body was needing from me. And so it's only been the last few months where my clients have really got to experience carnivore with me. And so I said, hey, and I knew she was skeptical, and I said, just give me 7 days. Seven
Yes.
days.
Yes. I absolutely. And you, I remember you said, "How do you feel about carnivore?" And I'm like, mm-mm, "No, thank you." But you're like, just 7 days, just try 7 days. And days 1 through 4, I have to admit, I felt pretty crappy, in the literal and figurative sense, because a lot is happening with your body. Like my gut was finally healing, so it really was like going through some sort of a detox, and I was so, so sick of me. And I think I messaged you. That's when I messaged you the most in this whole process, was like, I'm so sick of this. I hate meat. I do not like the texture right now. I hate everything about this. But on day 5, it was like revolutionary. I felt like I could lift a truck. I felt like invincible. It was the first time that I didn't have to take any Tylenol, any pain relievers. And up until that point, I had been taking about 1,000 milligrams of Tylenol a day for the past 3 years. And I've had doctors tell me, like, okay, really, how much are you drinking? Because your liver's like really bad. And I've not had a sip of alcohol in my life. So it's not alcohol that's ruining my liver. It's the medication. It's filtering my hormones because my hormones were haywire, and it's filtering all of the ibuprofen and Tylenol.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought Amy was a little cuckoo for suggesting that at first, because I was like, oh, that's not. But I'm so glad. And it was the right thing for me, because what we found in this process is, like, depending on where I'm at in my cycle, or if I have like a flare up, we always know we can always just take it back to carnivore. So although I have like a list of foods that are a-okay for me, and that list grows every day, that I feel like I can have a normal, happy, healthy life and be able to eat and indulge and enjoy with friends and family. But I always know that, if I'm not feeling so great, I can take it back down to carnivore and do a little bit of a reset and then start again.
Yeah, so you've had to use it a few times, right? When you've had foods that have just been like really hard on your body. Because what we're doing, the goal, like, just was never for like Sydney to be carnivore for the rest of her life. The goal was for us to figure out, A, get her body to this baseline where the endometriosis wasn't bothering her at all, because that's when we know it's going into remission and starting to heal itself, when it's not causing any issues. So we wanted to get there. Sorry, my dog's readjusting herself. And then from there, we start adding things back. So we use carnivore as an elimination diet in hopes that we can add foods and figure out what foods feel good in your body and what foods don't. Because carnivore gets your body to this very sensitive place of telling you foods that work and that don't work. And so we've come up with a list of like no foods for Sydney. And then we have some sometimes foods. And then we have foods that she could probably eat every day. But you still said even when you're eating those foods every day, over time, you still feel like you need to go back to carnivore for a few days. Like the change is minor, but enough to be like, I don't feel like as good as I did.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and physically, like, I still feel good. Like, I'm not, maybe my okay foods aren't giving me like flare-ups and I don't get headaches and things like that. But part of my issue too was like issues with food. And one of the wonderful things about carnivore is it just takes out the guesswork of it. Like the choice is already made. You have meat for dinner. Like that's, I don't have to think about options or see what I'm feeling like or listen to my cravings. Like it's there and that's what's in front of me to eat. And that was actually really healing for my own relationship with food. It really questioned, like came into question, like, are these cravings or am I really hungry? Because something you said, well, if you're hungry, you'll eat the chicken breast, right? So that's something that I was like, okay, yeah, I want the cake. But like if it's hungry for cake and not hungry for, a steak or bacon, then I know that that's not actually, that's more of a craving than hunger. So, yeah.
It's been one of my favorite things too, is I've been very confronted with, is this an emotional desire to eat or is it a physical desire to eat? Because as we all go on this healing journey, whether it's for weight loss, endometriosis, fertility, whatever that is, the thing that we have to really work with is that relationship with food. Because if we don't work on that relationship, when we're done together, it's going to be really easy for you to slide back into old habits, because you need to change that relationship on why you use food. So many of us use food to find joy and happiness. The science is there that cake causes dopamine and serotonin release in your body. Like there's actually happiness in eating the cake. And so when we remove that, you have to find other ways to find that joy, to connect with the emotions that you're having. Like if you can't feed the emotion and pack it down into your body, then now you have to have it. You have to talk out that thought process that's going through your head. Like we've had conversations where like you're wanting to go off track and you deserve to go off track, and talking about like what does Sydney actually deserve and really deserve, and when did you feel in the last week that you didn't deserve something or that you didn't feel
Yeah.
worthy or not, and we've really had to dig into things that have triggered you and help you reprocess some of those thoughts and habits, so that when you leave, like you're still working towards your goals that you have. Um,
Yeah, and that's like we've talked about like the idea of freedom, because like the idea of freedom to some might be like I can, you know, have whatever I want whenever I want. And that's like the freedom of choice to just eat whatever you want. But freedom to me has meant that I can be fully present with my family and friends, that I'm not, 70% in the conversation, 30% thinking about my pain, right? Freedom is being able to not be restricted with my activities and be present with my kids and desiring to be with my family and friends, rather than be laying on the couch because of something I ate. So there's still a balance that I need to figure out, and it's going to be a journey, because I will never again not eat my own birthday cake. And that was where I was at several years ago on my own food journey. Was I am on a diet 100% or bust. Like if I'm not 100%, then I'm a failure. Even saying no to my own birthday cake, and that's not a way to live. But being able to say, if I do want to participate in this food item, I am aware of the effect it's going to have on me. So if we have my son's birthday is coming up, so I am going to make a choice to eat his birthday cake, knowing that the next day I either have to do a fast or do lean carnivore because I know I'm going to have a reaction to the cake. But what freedom that's given me, freedom to choose if I want to do that or not, not just being a slave to all food, which was making me feel terrible.
How many people have said to you, I don't know how I could do what you're doing, Sydney? That doesn't sound like a life to live. If I don't get to eat the things that you're not eating, I don't know how you could do that. I don't know why you would want to do that. Like, I don't want it, like, like I've heard this before where people have like a disease and they're just like, I'd rather be sick than give up foods, right?
Yes.
And so at what moment did you realize that you could give up almost pretty much everything out there in order to feel good? Like, when did you realize that? And like, what was it feel? How did that feel inside when you realized that the choices you had made over the last 2, 3 weeks actually gave you a different kind of freedom?
Yeah. I was just so sick that when you hit rock bottom, it's pretty easy to do anything. And I've heard people say, I would do anything to lose weight. I would chop off my arm right now if that meant I could lose 50 pounds like that. And that is how I felt about my pain that I was in and the inflammation in my body, that like I would give anything. And so I was committed to this process just because I was desperate. I was facing having an organ taken out of my body because of the pain. And that is no way to live, especially it's not something I wanted to do. I didn't want to get a hysterectomy. Um, so when you come to a place that you feel like you've tried everything, you are desperate, or you just really need to get out of pain or whatever you're dealing with, that's when you're willing to try anything. But it was pretty clear, like within a few days of this process, just how good I could feel, which helped me continue on. Like it wasn't like I felt crappy for 9 weeks and I'm still feeling crappy, but I'm still giving it a go.
Yeah.
No, it was like within a few days, I noticed all of the positive things that we talked about, like the side effects. And I just felt so much better that I'm like, I have to keep going. And so that's where I'm at right now, is that there are plenty of times I don't want to eat the food that I've cooked, that I would just love to go out. And I'm visiting family in a place where there's like so many yummy food options that I just want to explore. And I know in order for me to feel my best, that it's just best if I just stick to the protocol that I have for myself. And I just have to remind myself, like, you want to be out of pain. You don't want to have a flare up. So stick to what's going to make you feel good. And then, like you said, focus on other experiences that are like not food related, to like uh, still experience like community and kinship and all of that stuff. Um, yeah, it was pretty easy to like continue on doing like carnivore, once I realized like how good I could feel.
Once, how good can it be? And the goal, right? Like, I think the neat thing is like, as carnivore heals your body, you will get to get more foods back as you want them to come back, right? But you're both changed, right? Like, when we first started this, when we were doing carnivore, you're like, when do we get to add another food? When do we get to add another food? And now you're like, I kind of want to back up a bit because I just want to feel as good as possible.
Absolutely. Well, and especially while on carnivore, I saw like miraculous changes to my cycle and my fertility, especially. Like I just, resigned myself to the idea that I will always need IVF to get pregnant. And that's just who I am because my cycle and my hormones are like all over the place all the time. And this is how they've been for like the last 15 years. So for like 15 years, I'm not seeing a change. The only time that my cycle is working correctly is when I'm doing IVF. So when like a doctor is taking control of my
The
cycle.
needles,
Um,
the pills.
yes,
Yeah,
yes. So I'm
package.
like, I guess I just have a messed up, messed up hormones, messed up cycle. And then when I went on carnivore, um, there were things happening in my cycle that have not happened in a decade. For those who understand, like your luteal phase, which is your last phase of your cycle, has to be long enough in order for conception to happen. So you have ovulation and then you have your luteal phase. If your luteal phase is too short, even if conception happened, there's no way for implantation to occur. It has to be, I think, at least 10 days is like
Mhm. Yeah,
the
you basically,
minimum.
yeah, the period will start before the hormones of implantation
Yes.
can take over. Yeah,
Yes. So
so
what
it's
was happening
impossible.
with me is I would have like really late ovulation and then a super short luteal phase. And anybody who goes through infertility knows that you like track everything.
Mhm,
And so I
everything.
was tracking like every month and noticing this pattern. I would even go to IVF doctors and say, I know I have a short luteal phase. And of course, they're like, okay, great, you'll be on medication, so we don't really care. We're going to
Right.
take the eggs out on day 14, so we don't really care. But that still didn't fix my problem. And it, like, I think it was week 2 or week 3, my luteal phase was a normal length, which is bananas that I've been trying for like a decade to lengthen that.
Mhm.
And then my actual period was normal and it started on time and it was normal. Um, and so again, another reason like I've stuck with this is because of like the results. The results came so quickly. I was shocked because I hear people like healing their gut and it's so intimidating because they're like, well, it takes 2 or 3 years to like heal your gut and feel better. And where while that is true a lot of times, if you've had a lot of damage to your gut, like it's going to take some years to repair. But I was so shocked that by day 4, I noticed changes in my body. And by 2 to 3 weeks, I noticed major changes in my cycle. And I've never, like I said, I've always been someone who thought, I always need IVF to get pregnant. And I'm at a place where, like, it's on the horizon that I very well could get pregnant on my own because everything's working correctly and my cycle is normal and I'm not having any daily pain. So, like, that's crazy and exciting. And who knows what's in the future for me in terms of getting pregnant and all of that stuff. But at least I know that, like, whatever direction we do go in, if we do decide to do IVF again or not, like, we're going to have the best outcome because of the work that I put in.
It's amazing. Like, just so inflammation, like going back to that first video you saw, that you're like, oh, this makes so much sense. How inflammation impacts every function of our body, right? So when we have this inflammation, the foods that we're reacting to causing the basically every cell of your body to go on fire. And when that happens, our fertility is a secondary system. It's not the main focus of your life. Staying alive is the main focus. So when your body's on fire with inflammation, your body's trying to stay alive, not get pregnant. So all of the hormones that you need in order to have a healthy cycle become like second or third or fourth, like not important at that time. Your body's just trying to stay alive. And so we can get inflammation down and we can start to bring everything back to this place of like balance and get the fires out in your body. Your body's like, oh, we can focus on fertility again. We're not on fire.
Yeah.
It's safe for us to think about this being an option. If she was to get pregnant right now, it wouldn't be the end of the world. And so it's amazing how quickly we start to see things come back into balance, right? And so we talk about this like every month or every cycle that Sydney goes through, it's going to look different and it's going to look more normal and it's going to feel more normal. And one day she's just going to feel like it's possible now. And I truly believe like she listens to her body well enough now that she'll be able to hear that message, and she'll be able to take that back. Like, as someone who also went through infertility, like, you feel out of control, like it's not up to you. Your planning your family was never how you imagined it to be. It was never, like those magic moments where you just get to like show your husband a fertility or your pregnancy test that's positive, because like he's with you like every step of the way. There's no moment in there, and then there's the failures and the not pregnancy fertility tests. Like, I just like healing like myself, like since having my kids through IVF as well, has been an emotional journey. And I don't know if my husband and I will ever get to the place where we can do it without IVF, because he's got blocks, like things that like surgically, who knows? I'll let you know if carnivore heals it, like 100%. Like if we get pregnant, it'll be because carnivore, because that's what we're both doing right now. But it's hard. It's sad to not know that having a third kid in our family is also something that is out of our control. Like, my body is where it needs to be, like it's doing great, but I don't have like a microscope at home for looking at my husband's situation.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, I have thought about buying a microscope multiple times just for.
I know. You know how much money we would save if we were just like, experts in morphology and all of that, and
right?
can do all of that at home. But you know what? You're absolutely right, because so many special moments have been stripped from people who are going through infertility, like the surprise pregnancy test. Like, how am I going to tell my husband that I'm pregnant? Or the moment where you pee on the stick and you are the only person in the world that knows that you are pregnant. There's a baby inside of you. And those are moments I've never had. I don't know if I'll experience those. Or moments of being able to tell your family you're going to be a grandma, but everybody, your family knows what you're going through, and it's also very invasive, not only physically, but family is always like, so how did it go? How was the embryo transfer? How was the egg retrieval? So is it 2 weeks yet? Tell us what's going on. And it's like, nothing is ever in my control. It's always on someone else's timeline. It's never what I want. But I felt so empowered by one thing I can control is what I put in my body. That's about the only thing I can control. I can try to control my stress levels to an extent. I mean, I'm a mom with kids and work and all sorts of stuff, but I have to eat, and I can control what goes in my body. And that has made all the difference. I have taken back my fertility in a sense. Not necessarily in the sense that I'm like fertile and able to get pregnant. Who knows? We'll see. But in the sense that like I feel so much more control in it, and I feel like I can control it. Mm-hmm. If I want to eat whatever I want and go back to old habits, that's my choice. I can, knowing the effect it will have on my fertility. Because I want to have a fertile body and have the opportunity to get pregnant again, I will make the choice to eat foods that will supplement that will reduce the inflammation, help normalize my hormones, and get me to that place.
Yeah. And I'm like a believer in your body. And that's like one of my jobs is to say, like, I believe in your body and I believe it's possible. I believe that like we've given you the right supplements to focus on egg quality, and you're also keeping inflammation out of your body. So however you decide to move forward, like I believe it's like that's my job, I guess, right? Like I need to give you hope, right? Like, because if you didn't feel like there was hope, like you never would have signed up.
No, absolutely.
But it's also because I truly believe, like, I'm like, I know your body can do it. Let's just give her a chance.
Yeah, well, and you've seen it too with other clients. Like you've seen the changes. I'm not the first to go through this program with you. That's that gave me hope too, is that others have been through this and found success. And so
there's some babies out there because they met me.
Absolutely. What a great feeling. You have a good job.
I do have a good job. Yeah, it definitely feels like I'm in the right place.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. So I want to say like thank you so much for doing this with me and taking the time out to share kind of your experience of what it's been like working with me. Would you do it again?
100%. And in fact, I'm like sad that it's coming to an end. So I actually need to talk to Amy about what we can do in the next few weeks and beyond that. But it's been like the best choice. And I you have several programs that you offer for any budget, which was like really helpful when I was deciding to work with you. But it was my husband actually who pushed me into the one-on-one coaching. Because he said, well, gosh, like any investment is a worthwhile investment if it's going to help you get out of pain. And he said, do you believe she can help you? And I said, I do. And he said, okay, well then let's do the one-on-one. And I remember something that like gave me peace of mind when I first met with Amy is that she said, I promise I make it worth your while. I make your investment worth it. Because it is an investment to do the one-on-one, but it was very clear from day one that it has been like worth it. And you really do make it worthwhile from like the constant checking in to the weekly meetings to anytime I've needed you, I'm able to send you a message and be like, I hate bacon today. Please just life is not good today. And you've been there for me, like emotionally and for troubleshooting. I've had some things pop up physically, like, what is this? What am I going through? And you've been able to troubleshoot, suggest vitamins, suggest different foods that could help. You've also taught me about advocating for myself, which has been something I didn't even know that I needed. I kind of liken it to like personal training. So I I used to go to the gym all the time and just show up at the gym and I don't know, try out that machine and maybe do cardio, or I would watch like tutorials online and try to replicate it. And it was always like, yeah, I really didn't know what I was doing. And guess what? I wasn't seeing results. It wasn't until I got a personal trainer for a few weeks that that personal trainer taught me how to exercise and taught me what fitness really is, that oh, I get it. And guess what? I don't have a personal trainer anymore. I just work out the way that I was taught. And now I'm like feeling great. And same thing with you. I really didn't know. I mean, I went on millions of diets and different hormone therapies and all sorts of things. I really didn't know what I was doing. And then I met you, and now like I know how to do it. I know how I'm going to eat for the rest of my life. Like think of the next 50 years of my life and the impact that these 12 weeks have had. Like I'm able to live the next 50 years of my life having a plan, knowing how to eat and living a healthy life, all in just like a few weeks. So it is like such a worthwhile investment. It's been like such a great experience. I would do it again and again. Absolutely.
And the cool thing, right, is like you get to now look forward to a future without pain.
Yeah. What is that? We talked about, my husband and I would joke about like after I got a hysterectomy, that's going to be part two of my book, like my story, my life story. Because every vacation, every family event, everything is always like, first of all, look at the calendar. Am I going to be on my period during vacation? Well, let's reschedule. Or anything was like around my pain. But now, like, so I always thought after I get a hysterectomy, I'll be able to live my life. But I don't need a hysterectomy anymore. Like, it's amazing that I know, crazy, right? That I can manage this disease, I can manage endometriosis and the symptoms and still live a good life. And like, part two started a few weeks ago when I started this journey. So I'm like totally living part two of my life. And my husband thanks you. I'm sure my children, if they could articulate
Mhm.
that there's no more grumpy mom, that I'm just like, I'm so happy. I never knew that eating a certain way could like have this much of an impact on your life, but like what an impact.
What an impact. Oh my gosh, like you're just like you're a testament. Like in so many ways, I'm so proud of you. Like I've just watched you like do hard things over and over again, like with the food and with the emotions, right? And like you've challenged yourself on so many levels. Like when I said like you need to learn like the advocating, you're like, okay, I can do this. Like you're just like you're ready to take on the rest of your life. Like you're so ready to take on the rest of your life, and that makes me so excited. And like I just love like I also love working with you, and I love that we get together, and I love like you're pouting, like when you would pout at me and you'd be like, I'm
So
sorry,
much.
I was pouting yesterday. I'm like, it's okay, I get it. Like I
Yes.
pout to myself sometimes. Like when I realized I had to give up ketchup too, I was like, there was a pity party here.
Yeah.
Like if I had a health coach in that moment, they would have got the same text you sent me,
Yes.
and
Yes. But like, thank goodness you were there, because when you try to do this alone, where does that emotion go? Like, it has to go somewhere,
mhm,
and usually it just goes back in and you just internalize it,
yeah,
right? So I was able to express those emotions, those fears, those anxieties, everything I was feeling. And you were a great sounding board and helping me, basically saying this is normal, um, and you will get through it. And I did. And I still tell people the week of carnivore was like one of the hardest things I've ever done. It was just that first time, but I just wrapped up 7 days of carnivore. I had my first non-carnivore thing today. So like now that I've done it one time, it's like super easy to do it a second time and a third time. So it's like, you know,
yeah.
yeah. And
So you have
everybody's
carnivore,
journey
and
is
then you
going to
have
be different. Like it's not, you're not like preaching carnivore. There's like some people that this was just my path that made me feel good and got the inflammation down the quickest because I was sick. I was in so much pain.
yeah. So we got the pain down, and now you have the tool to bring that down in the future really quickly. And so you're meat based, right? And then you have some other foods that you add in,
Yeah.
right? Like that work well for your body from time to time.
Yeah.
But like when things start feeling out of control, you have a home base, right?
Exactly.
And like that's kind of one of the things I really want to help people establish is how do you get your body back to feeling good? Like if you go on vacation, how do you come back to feeling good? You go out for dinner and drinks with friends, and you just need to come back. Like, what do you know that works for your body? And that really is, I think, what's missing for a lot of women is not knowledge of what works the best for your body. What can you do to help your body feel as good as possible? And then, like you said, like when we think about food freedom, like you like so good. And I just need to say it again. You said that you gave up a lot of foods, which to some people might feel like a lack of freedom. But what you got was freedom in so many different areas of your life. Freedom to be the mom that you wanted to be, freedom to do activities that you wanted to do, freedom to not live in pain, freedom to start thinking about growing your family again instead of thinking about a
Yeah.
hysterectomy,
Yeah.
right? Like there is nothing like that kind of freedom. And if freedom to eat whatever food you want overrides that level of freedom, and you're watching this, then you need me.
Yeah.
Because we need to deal with those emotions. We need to deal with that addiction to food that you would choose food over like a life that's barely a life.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That there is, I never knew that there was a life like, I just thought that this is just how it is, that you just live in pain and you have a foggy brain until you die, but it's not. Like there is a good life out there, you know? Endometriosis can be really crippling in a lot of ways, but there is like such a good life out there, and you just need to figure out the tools to make your body feel good. And it's I know my answer, and that's Amy.
Hi.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. I think we'll wrap it up. We've been here almost an hour.
I know,
You
crazy.
have just like so many things, right? Like your transformation about like the little details of transformations in your life. But again, just so proud of you and like so like blessed and honored that you trusted me to take you on this journey, and I'm excited to continue to watch you heal. Maybe
Thank
one
you.
day I'll come visit you in Abu Dhabi before
Please
2025.
do. My